Hello. Hi, Wendy.
Hello. I'm fine. I am sitting in my log cabin at the top of my garden, which is my workspace, and it's raining. So apologies if I'm a little deaf. The rain is louder than you. So I'll just say that to start in case it looks a little bit weird.
That's perfectly fine. So, starting with an introduction to Wendy, she's a very dear friend of mine. She's also been featured in Style Femina. She's an entrepreneur, and since 1988, she's running this wonderful business which is related to making effective calls through telesales. And she is the co founder of Domino Effect, which is a company that runs fun and interactive workshops to help small business owners grow their business, because small business owners do not have a salesperson or a marketing person to help them. So she helps them understand how they can do it themselves and be successful with that. She also has a second brand, which is called WAG Making Conversations Count. This is a wonderful training enterprise that helps marketing consultants who need to make telemarketing, and they can make use of training sessions to improve their skills in making telephone calls to their prospecting clients. So, Wendy, I am so glad to have you with me today.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back with you, Nousheen. It's been a while since that article that we did together for the magazine.
1 year.
How long has it been?
1 year.
Has it really?
Yes.
That has gone so fast.
Seriously, yeah. Okay, let's start with our conversation. Today we are going to talk about how important it is for all the sales and marketing people to pick up their phones and call their prospects. According to Spencer Lodge, as he said in my last few podcasts, that this is the high time to pick up your phone and make connections, because people are actually answering their phones and they might be there waiting for a call from someone who can help them in fulfilling their needs. So, keeping this in view, I have got Wendy with me so that she can guide us how we can make great sales calls without getting any negative responses from our audience. So, my first question from Wendy is that when people are picking calls and have the time to listen to us, how can we deliver our business messages in a great way through phone calls?
Do you know, Nousheen, it's a great question, and I would say that anybody that's ringing out to connect with their prospective customers need to be just mindful that they could be working from home and that they could have children running around and, photo bombing the back of their Zoom messaging. But ultimately, everybody is in a difficult situation at the moment. So the best way to approach that person is by simply just introducing yourself, being yourself, and asking them how they are finding the current situation. Because at the moment we're all at home, we're not able to mix, we're not able to sort of rub shoulders or hug anybody. So that phone call and Zoom calling is really our only way to have human connection. So we need to stay human in our approach to people, in making sure that we've got them on side from the start.
Yes, agree with you, because the human side is going to get you heard, get you noticed, and it'll bring out the best from the people or the worst from the people you are calling, because they will warm up towards you, they will understand, okay, they can trust you and go on with the conversation. So becoming human, becoming soft, showing some empathy, talking about some of their pain points could be a good way to start. Coming to the next question, how to make effective conversations that will encourage people to talk about their needs and wants without feeling intimidated?
Well, again, I think this comes down to the sort of question that you ask. If you're going to meet anybody for the first time, you're not going to go straight in with, do you want to buy my stuff? You are going to ask them about themselves and what, how they're doing things. You're going to be able to say to them, well, look, I do this. What does that look like in terms of a priority for you? Has the current situation changed that priority? I expect lots of people's priority lists are being swung from one extreme to another. So I think it is about making sure that you're asking them about what they need and when they need that, so that you can be looking to position yourself at the best time for them. Because we need to also remember, chances are they're not going to snatch your hand off and buy your stuff the first time you pick up the phone to them. So this is all about making a deeper connection and encouraging permission to be able to go back to them another time.
True, yes. So we should start by perhaps telling them more about us, about the usefulness of who we are.
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, Nousheen.
I said, so it's better for us to tell them more about us and how they can benefit from us.
Certainly, once you understand their current situation, then that's part of the conversation, isn't it? Is that you position yourself as well by saying, well, okay, I understand how you are faring around this situation. What we can do to help would be X, Y, Z. And then that is then a matter of agreement and timing for you both to set a date to come back to each other.
Right. So when someone is expressing their needs, what is the best way of educating them about how you can fulfill their needs?
I think if you can stick with having a natural conversation, when you know your product and when you know your service, there really shouldn't be a script involved. It shouldn't be a matter of having to drill down, statement sentences to them. It should be about talking around those points in a natural fashion, and let the customer take the lead in how those points come up in the conversation. So then it's not going to ever feel salesy. And my top tip for that is, if you can be a farmer or an educator, then really you are just solving a problem, and so you're offering them a solution. So you actually turn it into a solution sale, and you've met a need for them just by having a good, open, honest conversation.
Okay, all right. So what shall we do to make our very first phone call to a prospect effective enough to lead to the next one? Because what usually happens is they say, okay, I listen to you, I don't need it right now, maybe at some other time, and then the phone goes down. So in such a situation, how can we make such a call, the very first one, that there is still room for the second one, and we expect the prospect to pick up the phone when we call a second time without getting annoyed?
Okay. I'm going to tell you exactly how I do this. This is straight from the WAG desk.
Great.
And I will introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Wendy. I'm calling from the name of the company that I'm representing at the time. And I understand that you're responsible for whatever it is that they're responsible for. And once we've gotten to that point of identifying that we're actually speaking to the right person, because sometimes, we can be misled, that once you've got to speak to that person, I would always say this: I'm not sure if this is the right time for you, but I would really like to introduce what we do with the product. How does that fit with your priorities? because if you're talking about something that is awaiting a contract to be renewed, and they've renewed it 6 months ago and it's for another 3 years, they are not going to want to listen to you. So if you can position yourself as to closest to when the time is going to be right, then you have got them on side, because one, you're not going to try and pitch to them, you're not going to try and take up any more of their valuable time that they need to be working on their priority list. So they're likely to give you that information that you need for you then to say, is it okay if we stay in touch? I'll email you my contact details. You've got them. Should anything change, is it okay if we stay in touch? Yeah. And that's the simple formula that I use. And sometimes those conversations can take you from what you expect is a "I'm okay, thank you very much," or "No, thank you," to a 20-minute conversation as to where you're going to position yourself. And you just start to get to know one another. So that's how I would go about it.
Yeah. So it's important for us to first try and get to know the person more before we try to sell anything to him or her, because it's the connection. Even if it's over the phone, it's a connection. And the conversation has to be deep and meaningful. Only then people will listen and continue talking. Otherwise, nobody wants to buy just like that.
No. And I think if you consider the way that cold calling has changed, it's not very often that I will make a cold call now. I will quite often use my social networks to warm that up, so that I am connected to somebody first, that they have likely maybe seen my posts in the feed, they see the content, they read the information, they've got a full understanding from my profile of what it is that I actually do, for them to decide whether to connect or not. That's the point where they decide that could be useful for me. This person could have something that I need.
Yes.
That's when you're warming it up.
Yeah, our social platforms appear to be the best way of prospecting, best way of getting in touch with people who don't know us, because then they can read our profiles, they can understand what we do even before we talk to them. And that can warm them up and think in ways in which they can actually express their needs. And then comes maybe the opportunity to talk on phone. You're right in that. So I want to ask you if you could share one of your most interesting call experiences.
Oh gosh, interesting call experiences. Comes from LinkedIn, having somebody that I brought in as a supplier for a client, that then 3 years later, because they saw my content and they knew me because they dealt with me in a different capacity, actually approached me to come and do their sales training for them. 3 years later.
That's magic.
So they don't comment on my posts, they don't click like, they don't send me a happy birthday or a happy anniversary message, they don't use any of those push notifications that LinkedIn encourage us to use. They just had seen my posts in their feed for all of that time and knew that what I did was going to be good enough.
And it's going to help them.
Yeah.
This is how important your social media feed is. People can keep watching you over a period of time, observing how good you are at what you do, and then comes a decision, and then comes an opportunity for you. It's a great message, Wendy.
It's fabulous, isn't it, how it works?
It is, seriously. It makes me happy. Yeah. So, how were sales like, let's say, a decade ago, and what differences do you see now?
Sorry, say that again, Nousheen.
Let me
try.
How were sales practices like, let's say, a decade ago, and how are they now? What differences?
Oh gosh. So much different, so different. I mean, a decade ago, it would have just been calls and everybody was dabbling with email campaigns. You know, everybody had an email campaign for everything that they did. So you would get to work and it would take you a whole day to manage your email, let alone make a phone call. So, you know, that's changed. Social media has come into it a lot more. So, you know, it really is... due to online, it's really about attracting people to you because it's so noisy. You know, if you think of that you want something, you just go, "Hey Siri," or "Hey Alexa," "Hey Google." Oh, I've just woke her up. Sorry. But you go, that's at your fingertips to ask. So if you've got enough content and if you've got enough online presence behind you, then people will find you. But the only thing that I would say works now so much for cold calling is local community.
Yes.
If you've got a community-based product, then people will only buy from somebody within that collective. If you're local and have only got a local presence, then reaching out on the phone cold can work because your neighbours, it's okay. It's, you know, it's not breaking any etiquette. Whereas now, you know, just calling is probably a lot harder. And because we've got GDPR to consider,
yeah,
you know, the data protection has tightened up. So in so many ways it's changed in the last decade. Yeah, definitely.
True. How, when you're training let me keep on typing side by side. So when you are training your agents, what is the focus? What is the focus in your training, especially when it comes to sales agents?
So I think the biggest thing for everybody is people like to measure up against the person sat at the next desk or the desk opposite them, and they like to look at how they're performing against how I'm performing, and you know, and they'll go into this rumination over, you know, am I as good as them? Why am my target's not the same as them? Blah blah blah. Forget all of that. The best focus could be is that you are in that seat to serve your customers. Your customers come first. Yes, there's a big deal in being part of a sales team that grinds the organ, but ultimately your responsibility is to your customers. And if every single person sat in a sales seat does the same, the team will smash it. And it gives you so much more enthusiasm to do your job because you get joy from helping somebody, you know, and meeting what you need at the end of the month as well, which I'm hoping is that you just smash your targets. That's it. Simple.
It's simple. Yes. Yes, it is. It is. And it's quite obvious. Okay. Thank you so much, Wendy. It's amazing talking to you. We will get you on call again soon, and we will have some different questions the next time for you. And
fabulous.
Your input has been very, very valuable. I'm sure it will resonate with all my audience, and many entrepreneurs will understand how best to approach their prospects.
I'm hoping that it does help somebody somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much.